after reading 300 pitch decks in my entire career. And I'm gonna talk to you guys a little bit about pitch decks that actually work versus what doesn't work. This is kind of like a contract. This should go without saying, but I've had to say it 1,000 times, so I'll just go ahead and say it. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Creative Direction Studios. Today we're gonna be talking about going from this to this, and everything that happened in the middle in order to get us there. So let's jump into it. But first, my name is Evan Kaufman. I am a music industry executive of creative direction, and this channel exists to show you guys the entire process and the roadmap to become a successful career-driven creative director working specifically within the music industry. So let's jump into it. One of the clients that I work with that's on our roster is the Ransom Brothers. And at the time of recording this video, they have a lot of really exciting stuff in the pipeline. We noticed that we don't really have any compelling content. We have a lot of iPhone stuff that the guys have shot. We have a lot of behind the scenes stuff, but we don't really have anything that's very compelling. So my job is to sort of take ideas that I know are going to perform from a marketing angle and turn those into visuals that can tell a story about who these guys are, what the music is, and what the story is that we're trying to tell. So a lot of the time, that means that I go out and I hire a videographer, and I hire a photographer, and I hire somebody to kind of execute all of these assets that we need right now, right? But there's also times within the job when what the artist needs aligns perfectly with my own wheelhouse. I love really gritty photography. I love kind of like film-inspired photography. I love the image to look a little dirty, a little hazy. I like there to be a lot of depth in my photos. And so that's kind of the way that I always approach photography, and it's the way that I always approach my music video directing, my storytelling in that sense. So the Ransom Brothers needed somebody to do that exact thing with that exact aesthetic. So I put together a pitch deck. And I'm going to show you guys exactly what this is. And I'm going to show you guys why I formatted this pitch deck in the way that I did after reading 300 pitch decks in my entire career. And I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about pitch decks that actually work versus what doesn't work. So check this out. This was the one that I did. So this is our title page here, the Ransom Brothers photo shoot plus social content. Right away setting up kind of what this aesthetic's going to be, what it feels like, especially because this is page one, the first thing that you see. I wanted to do a couple different images side by side. So it's not just relying on one image, it's relying on two images that kind of tell the same visual story. Page two, we're going to go to world building. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the world. It's not necessarily even the story we're going to tell, it's the world that we're going to build. I think when you were talking about building visuals, I think that's the most important thing. So let's get straight into that. So world building. Think Austin, Texas in the 1990s, small town city, more trucks than Teslas, more artists than influencers, etc. Everything isn't a really perfect photo in this entire board, and that's one thing I love about it. All right, so next page here. The social media content. All right, so what I said here is I think it's important that we keep everything simple. No overdone performance shots or stage content. We focus on the simple stuff. A shot of a rear view mirror, outside the window while driving, maybe a few iconic shots of the guys, very docu-style. Austin landmarks that reinforce the Austin roots, but everything should feel classic instead of 2026. It doesn't have to be planned out moment. It can just be an aesthetic vibe. The simpler, the better. All right, the photography. So I want to do a quick 3 to 4 location shoot, but I want everything to feel like I'm following the band around, not setting up for a shoot. Super casual, docu-style, but capture enough variety for multiple use. Updated press, DSPs, socials, etc. So again, nothing that feels very staged, nothing that feels super overly produced, but stuff that feels like you're just in the moment with these guys was always like the name of the game. So that's it, 4-page deck. And one thing I'm going to say about decks that I see so much of now, don't use AI. Don't use AI for your text. You don't want it to say, this isn't just a creative concept, it's an entire world, but like you don't want to do any of that stuff. You don't want it to sound like AI. Like I specifically, actually in this thing, I wrote this like I would talk to them. Once an artist or manager or label signs off on this deck, this is kind of like a contract. This should go without saying, but I've had to say it 1,000 times, so I'll just go ahead and say it. Don't start getting crazy on set. Don't start veering off the path. I've been on sets before where photographers will kind of have like an idea spark, and it's a good idea, but it's something that doesn't really visually play with the rest of this stuff. And you kind of have to pull them back into, hey, this was the idea. Let's stick to it. Let's keep going with this. So make sure that when you are executing, you have that in mind. You want to make sure that if they hold up the photos, the final content to this deck, everything feels in line with that. And so now that we've seen the deck, let's look through some of the photos. And so some of the stuff we shot in a bar, some of this stuff we shot out at the iconic Austin Motel, some of this stuff we shot out in a neighborhood kind of in like West Austin, just like driving around. But everything really does have this very warm kind of Austin-y vibe. Man, I love this shoot. I think it turned out, I think it's a perfect marriage of an artist and my style. And as a creative director, whether you are hiring a person or whether you were doing it yourself, you want to make sure that the artist's style and the artist's visuals and that the story and aesthetics that we're trying to tell with this artist are perfectly in line with whoever the photographer is or whoever the videographer is or who's ever designing the album cover. You just want to make sure that those teams are perfectly in sync. So I felt great about these. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on stuff. Chime in the comments. Tell me what you guys are working on right now. And if you guys like this content, please consider subscribing to the channel. Hit that like button, and I will catch you guys on the next one.